It always starts quietly, not with screams, but with the sudden realization that you are afraid of the person who once held you close. The deepest betrayal is not when someone hurts you. It's when someone who promised to protect you becomes the danger. Psychologists call this attachment violation trauma. Your brain goes into a state of confusion. How can love and fear exist in the same room? How can the one I trust also be the one I fear? Most won't admit it out loud. They'll make excuses. They'll explain the bruises as clumsiness, the insults as jokes, the threats as a bad day. Because the truth is too horrifying to face. You're not safe anymore. Imagine a man named Aiden. For years he believed he found the one, Lena. Charming, laughs that turned rooms bright, and for a while she made him feel alive. But one night, she snapped. The bottle in her hand struck first. Anger she could not regulate aimed at the man she claimed she loved. Aiden froze. Not from the pain, but from the realization that he wasn't allowed to feel pain. Her rage was followed by apologies so sweet that anyone on the outside would think he was the problem. I wouldn't get so angry if you didn't push me. I love you. Don't leave me. You make me crazy and I can't lose you. Aiden started walking on eggshells. His home, once a refuge, became a silent war zone. He watched his words. He monitored his tone. He softened his voice so hers wouldn't turn sharp. But love shouldn't require fear management. Psychological insight. When physical or sexual harm enters a relationship, something irreversible cracks. The nervous system becomes hypervigilant. The mind rewrites memories to protect the abuser. The victim normalizes the unacceptable. That is the psyche aftermath. Your survival instinct begins to whisper what your heart refuses to accept. This isn't a relationship anymore. It's captivity with romantic decorations. Protection is non-negotiable. If you must fear your partner, you must leave your partner. Because violence is not a mistake. It's a revelation of who they truly are. Aiden stared at the door for weeks, his hand hovering over the exit, but his heart still convinced this was love worth saving. Little did he know, this was only the first violation. Next comes the abuse that leaves no visible marks, the kind that shatters the soul before the body ever breaks. What happens when the attacker puts down their hands and starts attacking your reality instead? Some scars bleed, others whisper, and the quiet ones are the most lethal. When abuse shifts from the body to the psyche, it becomes invisible, but not less deadly. Psychologists call this identity erosion. It doesn't break bones, it breaks reality. Aiden learned that fast. Lena had always been sharp-tongued, sarcastic, intense. But now, every disagreement became a psychological chess match where only she knew the rules. The weapon of doubt. It started small. You remember wrong. You're overreacting. That's not what I said. Then grew darker. You're losing it. Everybody thinks you're the problem. Without me, you'd fall apart. One day, Aiden caught himself apologizing for something that never even happened. That's the point of gaslighting. If they can rewrite the past, they can control the present. If they control the present, they own your future. The most dangerous jail has no bars, just mental locks you didn't notice tightening. Lena isolated him masterfully. Friends became bad influences. Family didn't really care. His hobbies were childish. His work wasn't good enough anyway. Every insult came wrapped in concern. Every restriction disguised as love. Aiden looked around one day and realized he stood alone with the very person who made him feel worthless. That's how psychological abuse wins. It convinces you that escape means losing the only lifeline you have left. Stonewalling, contempt, manipulation. These aren't toxic quirks. They are forms of control architecture. Emotional abusers don't want a partner. They want a dependent. Someone too confused to resist. Too isolated to reach out. Too broken to believe they deserve peace. Love does not require self-erasement. The moment you must shrink to stay loved, you are no longer loved. You are owned. Aiden stood in front of a mirror one night, staring at a version of himself he no longer recognized. Where did his confidence go? Where did his laughter disappear? How did love turn him into a shadow? He didn't know it yet. But the next violation would make everything collapse. Because once the abuser owns your mind, they go after the truth itself. And when the truth dies, loyalty becomes a weapon. What happens when lies become the new reality and trust becomes the biggest threat of all? There is a point in every abusive relationship where the victim stops asking, "Is this wrong?" and starts asking, "Am I wrong?" When your reality becomes negotiable, the abuser has already won. Aiden used to trust his instincts. He knew who he was, what he believed, what was right. But Lena chipped away at all of it. Lie by lie, secret by secret, story by story. She perfected the mask. To others, she was sweet, supportive, misunderstood. Behind closed doors, she wielded deceit like a blade. Where there are constant lies, there can be no relationship, only illusion management. Lena's lies weren't about small things. They attacked the very foundation of their lives. Money missing that she never touched. Conversations she never said. Messages she didn't know how they got there. Plans that Aiden must have imagined. He found a hidden credit card once. A secret debt she swore was none of his business. He had no idea what else was hidden. Only that the woman he shared a life with was building a separate one behind his back. Every lie forced him to question himself instead of her. Every discovery came with a punishment: silence, rage, or threats to leave. But abandonment isn't fear of losing a person. It's fear of losing the version of yourself you only feel near them. When trust collapses, the mind enters survival mode. You analyze every tone, every delayed text, every unexplained moment, every shift in behavior. Aiden wasn't living, he was detecting. His nervous system was constantly scanning for danger, for deception, for proof that he wasn't crazy. This is psychological torture disguised as partnership. The hidden truth: lies are not mistakes. Lies reveal loyalties. What someone hides tells you what they protect and who they're protecting. Persistent deceit isn't carelessness. It's commitment. Commitment to a truth that excludes you. A relationship without trust is a story with two different scripts, and only one person knows the ending. If you can't trust their word, you can't trust their world. But the worst betrayal wasn't the lies themselves. It was the way Lena reacted when the truth came to light. Not with regret, not with remorse, not with accountability. Instead, blame. Suddenly he was the problem. His suspicions were toxic. His questions were disrespectful. His hurt was manipulation. At the moment he needed her empathy, she sharpened her indifference. And what came next was a betrayal that didn't just break the relationship. It broke Aiden's soul. What happens when betrayal is not treated as a wound, but as a weapon? Some betrayals feel like knives. Others feel like poison. Slow, quiet, pretending to heal you as it kills you. Infidelity is not just a body crossing a line. It is a promise being buried alive. Aiden found the messages by accident. Flirty, Inside jokes, plans made in secrecy, photos that erased all doubt. His hands shook, not with rage, with heartbreak that felt like suffocation. He confronted her, hoping for tears, remorse, something human. Instead, Lena smirked. "Why are you snooping? Maybe if you were a better partner, I wouldn't need attention. It was just texting. Calm down." The betrayal wasn't the act. It was her reaction to being caught. That is what makes infidelity unforgivable. The pain didn't break him. Her indifference did. When a partner cheats and feels no guilt, their empathy has already left the relationship. A remorseful heart says, "I made a mistake." A cruel heart says, "You made me do it." This is projection warfare, a tactic where the betrayer forces the betrayed to hold the shame. Cheating is devastating, but blaming the victim is psychological mutilation. Infidelity as control. Most think cheating is about lust. For some, it's about power, keeping multiple sources of validation. Knowing someone will stay no matter the pain. Testing how much control they actually have. Watching the victim beg for the bare minimum. It becomes a loyalty test, rigged for the victim to fail. Aiden tried to understand, to reason, to save the ruins. But how do you repair with someone who enjoys watching you bleed? The internal collapse. Aiden's self-worth shattered. Why wasn't I enough? Maybe she's right. Maybe I drove her away. If I just fix myself, she'll love me again. That is the aftermath abusers count on, the victim turning inward instead of facing the harsh truth. Her betrayal revealed her character, not his value. Betrayal without remorse is a confession, not of what happened, but of who they really are. Aiden stayed longer than he should have, not because he was weak, but because he still believed in the version of her that no longer existed. And in his darkest hours, even betrayal didn't free him. Because now his mind was corrupted by a deeper question. If she can do all this and still say she loves me, then maybe this is what love feels like. That is the final stage of abuse, when you mistake pain for intimacy. But what if he finally stops blaming himself and starts seeing the predator behind the mask? One moment is all it takes for a man to finally remember he was not born to crawl. Aiden's breaking point was not dramatic. No shouting, no slam doors, no final betrayal too large to ignore. It was silence. He sat alone at the kitchen table, the same place where they used to laugh over weekend breakfasts, listening to the air vibrate with unspoken misery. Lena scrolled her phone on the couch, face lit by the glow of another man's attention. She didn't even bother to hide it anymore. That's when it hit him. He was grieving someone who was still alive and sitting only 10 feet away. The shift from self-blame to clarity. Psychologists call it cognitive dissonance resolution. When the mind can no longer tolerate a lie, it flips the switch. Aiden's switch sounded like a whisper. "She is hurting you." Then louder, "This is not love." Then undeniable, "You deserve to live." The fog began to clear. The bars of the invisible cage started to show. Every insult, every lie, every betrayal rearranged itself into a pattern, and patterns reveal predators. Recognizing the predator abuse is most dangerous when it hides behind love. But when Aiden finally saw her actions without excuses, the gaslighting became psychological warfare. The lies became identity erasure. The cheating became domination strategy. The lack of remorse became a revealed blueprint. Lena didn't love him. She loved the control. She loved the power his devotion gave her. She loved that he stayed. That was the real betrayal, not infidelity, but enjoying his suffering. The return of self-preservation. There is a primal force inside every human that awakens when survival is threatened. Aiden felt it rise through his chest. A heat, a weight, a quiet fury. He wasn't angry at her anymore. He was angry at himself for forgetting who he was. He remembered the version of himself before the cage. Confident, creative, connected, loved by others, proud of the man he saw in the mirror. That man wasn't gone, just buried, and he was clawing his way back. The soul knows when it's dying you can silence pain, but you cannot silence instinct. Aiden stood, no words, just motion. Every step toward the door felt like oxygen returning to his lungs. He wasn't fully free yet, but freedom had finally become more frightening to her than captivity was to him. Lena didn't look up at first. Then she realized something had changed. Her voice sharpened. "Where do you think you're going?" Aiden turned, eyes colder than she had ever seen. And for the first time in a very long time, she felt fear. What happens when the prey stops running and starts walking away? Some betrayals leave scars, others leave ashes. But from ashes, life can be rebuilt. Aiden walked out the door that night without shouting, without vengeance. The world outside felt alien at first. Empty streets, silent rooms, but also possibility. He realized something essential. You cannot negotiate with destruction. You cannot reason with someone who has made cruelty a habit. The bridge is burned, the river runs deep, and trying to rebuild on shattered wood is a death sentence for your soul. The Psyche Aftermath of unforgivable acts. Recovering from abuse, infidelity, or betrayal isn't linear. It's not a montage of quick self-help wins. Emotional debris. Memories of lies and manipulation linger like dust in sunlight. Hypervigilance. Your mind scans for danger, even where none exists. Identity questioning. Who were you with them, and who are you alone? Trust recalibration. Every future relationship is measured against the betrayal, residual pain. Occasional pangs of grief or nostalgia are natural, but survivable. Aiden felt all of this, and he faced it head-on, because avoidance only prolongs the wound. The rules of true recovery. 1. No contact is not cruel. It's necessary. Silence preserves clarity. It stops the predator from invading your mind. 2. Redefine yourself beyond the relationship. You are not the partner of. You are a human being with agency, desires, and dignity. 3. Embrace your rage, then redirect it. Anger is not a failure, it's a compass. It shows what boundaries were violated, then transform it into creation, work, art, purpose. 4. Rebuild your trust. Slowly, trust is no longer assumed. It is earned. Each new person, each new bond, must pass the filter of self-preservation. 5. Honor the pain, but do not marinate in it. Pain teaches. It sharpens perception. It separates the weak attachments from the essential. The hardest lesson. You cannot change the past. You cannot compel remorse or gratitude. And you cannot save someone who refuses to save themselves. Aiden learned that liberation is not revenge. It is survival. It is choosing yourself consistently, even when guilt whispers that you are cruel for leaving. You survive, then you thrive. The unforgivable is a mirror, not of your weakness, but of their character. Months later, Aiden sat on his balcony at sunrise. The air was crisp, empty, and clean. No texts, no whispers of manipulation. Just him and his mind, reclaiming his life one thought at a time. He remembered the pain, but he no longer felt trapped by it. The lessons were burned into him. Betrayal without remorse is the ultimate signal. Abuse and manipulation are signs to leave, not fix. Freedom is found when survival outweighs attachment. He took a deep breath and smiled. Not for her, not for anyone, but for himself. Because survival isn't the end. It's the beginning. And every day afterward is proof that the soul can rise from ashes